Hi, Julie Jules Cruise Companion. Today I've travelled about 8 kilometres out of the centre of Amman, the old town, and I have come for the very first time to the National Tank Museum, opened in 2018 by King Abdullah II. There is 140 tanks spanning the history of this region in this museum. It does not include it in the Jordan Pass, so it's going to cost me 5 JD, khamsak. It's going to cost me 5 JD. And there's some tanks here in the forecourt. Let's go and see if I'm allowed to film. So I got inside to do the security check and needed my vaccine passport, but I didn't have it downloaded on this phone. So I've gone back to the car, hotspotted my old phone and downloaded my vaccine passport to this phone. So I'll try for a second attempt to get into an entry into the Royal Tank Museum. So for a visitor it is 5 Jordanian dinar. So I've got my ticket and I'm starting here. I'm allowed to film. So starting here with basically the Crusaders. So let's just see what 140 tanks on display here in this museum. The Vinci tank, one that we're probably more familiar with, a howitzer. So to be more familiar with the T.E. Lawrence and the 1914, the Great Arab Revolt, so you'd have a Rolls-Royce armoured car. Probably a tank that's a little bit more topical right at this moment. This is the Soviet Union 1941-1942 light tank. The French Renault. The British Lloyd. The German Panzer. And another French, Lorraine. A Czech-made Panzer, 38-ton. A Panzer 4D from the North African campaign. A Kattenkrat light transport. And a Kubelwagen. All from the Second World War. So you have a British Valentine 5, you have a British Crusader, and then you have an American Stuart. This is one of the nearly 3,000 Matildas that were produced. It saw service in the Soviet Union and the North African campaigns. A couple of American tanks, the Mark III Grant and the Lloyd Carrier. A Canadian Sexton. Long Range Desert Patrol from Canada as well. An American Sherman tank. Sticking with the Americans, we have the Comet and the Cornwall. So this one is an 88mm flak, a Nazi vehicle, and this is another Nazi Panzer. Created in response to the Soviet Union, this is a Nazi Panther. I think it's a 78mm. So just coming out of the pavilion, that's the World War II pavilion, and we're basically coming into the First World War. And via a picture of Karamah Battle, there we go. we have a Wagner. So it's coming really into the Arab theme here. Marmon Harrington. Another Harmon Harrington. This one's an Otter. A Sherman M4, 75mm. A Saracen APC with a Rolls-Royce 8-litre engine. This Harmon Harrington, you can actually get a pretty close look inside. With Jordan being a part of the British Protectorate, this is a Valentine Archer, 76mm. A British Charioteer with a 20-ton gun, and this one is a Daimler Dingo. I'm moving into a hall that's dedicated to the Karamah Battle, a 15-hour military action between Jordanian forces and Israeli defense forces, about 50 kilometers from Amman. In 1967. 86 Jordanians lost their lives, and Israelis were repelled. A total of 250 Israelis were killed. An M47 Patton, 25-pound gun, or a standard rocket launcher, and an anti-tank gun mounted on a Jeep. An M42 Duster, so it's an anti-aircraft with rapid fire. And an M48 Patton. The iconic British Criterion, used from 1941 to 1973, went through 4 stages, Mark 1 to Mark 4, with a 17-pound gun. So moving through into the next hall, which is the Arab-Israeli War Hall, and particular focus on the Golan Heights, which is to the north of Jordan, bordering with Israel. That land was annexed. A British-made Salahadin, an AMX-13, a Mark 44 155 self-propelled howitzer, a T-55, T-62, BRDM-2, and an M60A1. A British Ferret, and the American M52. And here's that Criterion again. So this is a pretty unique display. They've cut a tank in half, so you can see what the conditions are like. engine back there. Cramped quarters. And up there on the turret. Absolutely fabulous display. So in the central hall here you have the Criterion 5, the Khalad, and then above that you've got a Cobra helicopter. Central hall, Range Rover. A Fox. The French Panhard. The American Greyhound. And the American Staghound. Coming into a hall just surrounded by Nazi and Soviet tanks. And an American tank. Well, entering into this hall is a little too real with the sound effects and the flashbangs going off. The South African-made Renault. A British and Jordanian collaboration. This is the Challenger, or the Al Hussein tank. Surface-to-air missile launcher. And the BMP-1. Leaving the Jordanian hall into the international hall. Turret after turret. The Conqueror, the IS-3. Centurion Mark I. The Vickers 3. M41 Walker Bulldog. Chieftain 5. AMX 30. And a Type 61 Rokuichi. Soviet IS-3, T-54, T-64, a Streitzenwagen, Panzer, Crusader, T-72, Leopard 1, and a combination between England and Jordan, Tarak. Standing out all alone, different colour, the South African Renault used for the UN peacekeeping. No museum is worth its salt unless it has a gift shop. Moving up this gantry, this gives you a different perspective on the displays that you've just walked through. The ArabIsraeli Hall I walked through before. The US and Soviet tanks I walked through before. The International Hall with all of those Soviet tanks. And the gantry just leads you up to a game hall and a snack area. So just trying to relieve myself from some of that ambient light just from this higher vantage point over that central dome, the Cobra helicopter and the different halls with 140 different tanks. This is the Royal Tank Museum, Amman in Jordan.